Welcome to Medieval History Channel 97, where the echoes of the past come alive. Step into the world of knights, castles, and forgotten legends as we journey through time together. Let history speak. Try to imagine you just woke up on a vast field, under the starry sky of the American West in the 1870s. The morning cold mixes with the fatigue still clinging to every muscle after more than 14 hours riding horseback yesterday. You lie on a simple mat with nothing but a rough cloth layer and hard cold ground as a mattress. Your back aches, your legs are crooked from years of relentless riding, your hands calloused and cracked from ropes and dust-laden winds. This is the real life of a cowboy, not the glamorous romantic image seen in movies. Beside you, the murmurs of your comrades begin to wake. From the chuck wagon, the strong aroma of coffee drifts like a miracle amid the harshness. Cookie, the cook of the group, though always grumpy, now becomes the savior waking you from your exhaustion. The wide-brimmed hat, faded with years, is ready to be worn, the scarf tied around your neck, prepared to be pulled up over your nose and mouth to avoid the swirling dust. Everything is not for beauty, but for survival. The cowboys here come from everywhere: former black slaves, Mexicans with traditional ranching experience, young European immigrant men seeking a future. Despite their different backgrounds, they live, work, and endure harsh days together. Monthly wages barely reach $40, enough to buy food, clothes, and a place to sleep, but no surplus for dreams of independence or going home. The long days pass under the scorching sun, the wind blowing dust into your face, making you feel like you're riding through a furnace. Sweat soaks your shirt, but evaporates quickly as if it never existed. Meals are just tough, dried meat, enough to stave off hunger and keep alert. No time for lunch breaks, no sumptuous meals, only persistent fatigue and repetitive rhythms. At night, you stand guard, protecting thousands of cattle against wild animals, thieves, and other invisible dangers. One night, sitting beside the campfire, looking up at the endless starry sky, loneliness seeps into your soul. Yet, at the same time, there is a freedom no other job can offer. No walls confining you, no one controlling you, only the vast sky and your loyal horse. In moments like these, no matter how hard it is, you are proud to be part of this vast land. After weeks, when the herd reaches Abilene, the town receiving the cattle and waiting to ship them east, you get a chance to rest, change into clean clothes, and enjoy a real meal with eggs, bacon, and properly brewed coffee. This precious time allows you to meet friends, collect your wages, and face the challenge of guarding your small earnings from the temptations of saloons and gambling. Letters from family, loved ones back home, provide great spiritual support to get through days far from home. But then, it all starts again. You prepare your gear, mount your horse, leave behind the noisy town, returning to the vast fields where wild cattle roam and harsh challenges await. This is the life of a Western cowboy, relentless, unforgiving, but full of untold stories of perseverance and resilience of those living amidst the wide-open plains. May 17, 1870. This morning, as soon as I opened my eyes, my mind still foggy from the hurried sleep on the saddle, my whole body ached, every muscle throbbing. Clinging tightly to the back of the old horse for more than 10 hours, my body ached as if I had just survived a fierce storm in the desert. We are on the road, in the vast and harsh west of America in 1870. The land of cowboys, roaming herds of buffalo, and night winds cold enough to cut through flesh. Last night, I still clearly remember the bone-chilling cold when night fell. The sky was pitch black with only a few distant stars twinkling. The wind blew fiercely from the wild grasslands, penetrating deep into my toughened skin. No warm blanket, no roof to shelter under, just the saddle and the vast night sky overhead. A simple meal, a few hard pieces of bread and some dried meat, warmed by the small fire we had barely set up, enough to somewhat warm my worn-out body after a day struggling with the giant cattle. I sat with my head bowed by the fire, eyes half closed, trying to nap, but the persistent back pain would not allow it. My body felt locked onto the saddle, every movement sending sharp pains. This is the life of a cowboy in the West, tough, harsh, and not meant for the weak. Morning on the road. Before the sun even rose, I had to get up, hurriedly pulling my wide-brimmed hat over my head to shield from the early sun. The air was still cool, mixed with the scent of soil and dry grass, the distinctive smells of this wilderness. My limbs felt exhausted after hours on horseback, but work waits for no one. The cattle were still being driven toward a new grazing field, and my team and I had to constantly follow behind, tending to each animal, making sure none got lost or fell prey to wild beasts. I tried to breathe deeply, heavy breaths causing my stomach to cramp, but weakness was not allowed. Under the harsh sun of the West, there is no room for discouragement. The life of a cowboy. The cowboy life is not the beautiful scenes from movies, nor the gentle country music. It is hours spent riding across barren lands, dust storms swirling, nights disturbed by distant wolf howls, the biting cold of winter, and the scorching heat of summer. Each day is a battle for survival, not only against nature but also against oneself. Torn clothes, calloused hands, scratches on the face, all tell a tired but resilient story. Thinking of family. Sometimes, in rare moments resting by the fire, I miss home. My mother, my sisters, the warm meals filled with joyful laughter. But this West is a land of freedom and challenge, and I must keep moving, for there is nowhere else for me. I told myself that every step I took, every hour spent on horseback, was to make a living, to hold on to my freedom, to one day return with pride and my own story. Meeting the comrades in face, along the way I met fellow companions, other cowboys, men who shared the same fate. We exchanged nods, brief greetings amid the vast and silent space. We were brothers of the wild, standing together against hunger and thirst, facing the challenges of nature side by side. A life that allows no weakness, no medicine, no hospitals. When sick or injured, you could only heal yourself by enduring and self-care. Every wound, every pain was a reminder that cowboy life was the harshness of nature and the resilience of man. I had to learn to keep myself from collapsing, not let pain blur my goal, not let loneliness fade my will. Dusk and campfire light. The day passed with hardship, and as evening fell, the golden light of the late sun shone on vast grasslands. We stopped, set up camp, and lit a fire. The fire crackled, its light dancing on everyone's faces, making mine flush red. The aching pain did not completely disappear, but was somewhat soothed by warmth and companionship. I knew this life would have many long days like this, days struggling with weather, the body, the cattle, and lurking dangers. But this was my life. A harsh life, yet full of freedom and meaning. Waking up each morning on horseback with a sore body was proof of the persistence, strength, and undefeated spirit of a cowboy in the American West in 1870. Describing the hard life at camp, drinking coffee by the wagon, equipped with face scarves, wide-brimmed hats to protect from dust and sun, and the diversity of cowboys from many cultures, all enduring the same hardships. May 17, 1870, noon at camp. After a tiring morning struggling with the cattle and aching all over, my comrades and I headed to the rest camp. The cowboy camp was the only place where we could rest, recharge, and prepare for the long journey ahead. This place was nothing more than a makeshift stop, usually set up beside wagons. Rough but sturdy wooden carts used to carry supplies, food, and luggage along the western trails. I sat on the ground beside the wagon, holding a steaming cup of black coffee freshly brewed by someone in the group over a small fire. The smell of coffee passed my nose while I tried to hold on to the warmth from the cup against the harsh sun gradually blazing in the sky. Cowboy equipment and gear. The camp had nothing luxurious. We wore wide-brimmed hats made of leather or stiff fabric to block the sun. Face scarves were indispensable, both to avoid the dust storms blowing over dry fields and to protect from the sun and keep warm at night. I remember today when dust covered my clothes, each layer sticking tight to my skin, I had to wrap the scarf around my face and pull my hat down low on my forehead, feeling like I was wearing a simple warrior's mask. At the same time, everyone wore simple, sturdy clothes to withstand the unpredictable weather, from thick cotton shirts to rugged jeans. Though plain, these outfits were our armor protecting us against nature's harshness. The diversity of companions. What warmed my heart during these tough days was the diversity of the cowboys around me. No one was alike. There was a guy of Mexican origin, with sun-kissed skin and a voice mixed with Spanish, carrying traditional Latin American horseback riding and cattle management skills. Alongside were immigrants from Europe, some from Germany, others from Ireland, who had crossed the ocean seeking freedom and new opportunities in the American West. Each carried their own story, but we shared a common hardship, The harsh life, long hours on horseback, facing sun, wind, dust, and loneliness on the vast plains. Stories by the campfire. When the sun began to set, the atmosphere around the camp grew a little warmer, thanks to the golden glow of the fire. We sat together, sharing life stories, memories, and unrealized dreams. Laughter rang out, mingled with the whistle of the wind blowing through worn-out face scarves. The Mexican spoke of his distant countryside, about the days spent with cattle back home. The German told of the wheat fields stretching across Europe and the arduous journey to get here. Though each of us had a different culture, we bonded like a family, enduring hunger together, facing challenges together, and keeping our spirits strong for the long journey ahead. Relentless challenges. Yet, life at the camp was never easy. Dust covered everything, and winds seemed ready to blow away all our makeshift shelters. Whenever the wind blew, we had to quickly pull our face scarves up to keep the sand out, eyes red from the dust. Sometimes sand would get into my nose, causing me to sneeze repeatedly. At night, when the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, the air grew cold enough to chill to the bone. The small canvas tent couldn't stop the cold from seeping deep into the flesh. Food was also a major concern. Meals were simple and dry, like jerky, hard bread, sometimes a few roasted potatoes. No greens, no delicious dishes like at home. We drank strong black coffee to stay alert, to keep fighting the challenges of the next day. Team spirit and perseverance. No matter how difficult or tiring it was, we never abandoned each other. When one got injured or too tired, others helped, cared, and encouraged. I learned that here in the West, strength wasn't only in muscular arms or skilled horseback riding, but also in the bond between strangers, creating a small but resilient community together. No one here is alone. We endure together, overcome these long and challenging days, and whenever we look toward the blazing sunset, our hearts rise with the belief that tomorrow will be better. Watching the wilderness. In the evening at the camp, after everyone has fallen asleep, I often sit quietly looking up at the star-filled sky, a magnificent painting only the West can offer. The sky stretches endlessly, the light of thousands of sparkling stars makes my soul drift away, forgetting all physical pain. Under the stars, I feel my smallness before the majestic nature, but at the same time, I see the hidden strength in my soul, the strength of a cowboy, of those who live fully for freedom and resilient will. Life at the cowboy camp in the western frontier in 1870 was a journey full of harshness and challenges, but it was also here, amid dust, sun, wind, and cold nights, that we found friendship, sharing, and the strength to rise above all difficulties. I, a cowboy, will continue this journey, traveling across vast lands with diverse people, living together, fighting together, and preserving the indomitable spirit of the Wild West. Waking early in the morning, I start a new day on the dry land of the American West. My body still aches. The dirt from the day before clings to my clothes, skin, and under my nails, creeping into every nook that, no matter how hard I try, cannot be fully cleaned. The life of a cowboy is not clean or comfortable as many imagine. We only have a few personal items carried on us or kept in small bags on the wagon. Sometimes an old dagger, a few rough clothes, a piece of cloth to wrap the legs, a scarf, and some other small items. Few personal belongings I clearly remember. The items I carried were carefully chosen because each had to be light and useful. A wide-brimmed hat, worn and old, but still an indispensable companion to shield from sun and dust. The coarse, dark, dusty scarf I used to cover my face whenever dust flew like rain. The small, sharp dagger, not only for self-defense but also to cut ropes, carve meat, or cut grain. Not much else. I had to take care of each item like a treasure, because there was no chance to buy new or replace. Low wages and hard life. Our wages, us cowboys, are barely anything. About $35 a month. Sounds like a lot, but in reality, it's a small amount compared to what must be spent on daily life. Every penny has to be spent on food, patching clothes, fixing broken tools, rent for a place to sleep if any, medicine when injured, all must be carefully calculated. Thus, each month passes in frugality and worry. Often I wonder if it's worth enduring such extreme fatigue and hardship. Dust, the unavoidable enemy. But difficulties are not only about money or material things. Dust is what makes life most suffocating. Since leaving the small settlements, dust and sand have become an inseparable part of us. It It covers our skin, in our hair, slipping into every crevice of the body. Even trying to wash face and hands in small streams, dust clings tightly, never letting go. Every night back at camp, I'm like a different person. Skin darkened, wrinkled from dust and sun, sweat mixed with dust, hardened into layers on clothes. The constant feeling of exhaustion. The tiredness is not only from riding horses for many hours, but also from small things like dust sneaking into the body. The itchy, burning feeling when dust mixes with sweat makes me unable to feel comfortable. Every night by the fire, I often scratch until my skin is raw. Not only that, dust also hurts the eyes, making it much harder to watch the cattle and the path. Resilience and acceptance. Still, we have to accept this life as it is. No other choice. Dust, sun, cold, hunger, thirst, wounds, fatigue, all like uninvited friends but indispensable on the cowboy journey. We learn to adapt, learn to endure, and learn to find small joys in the simplest things. Dreams and hope. Despite the harsh life, I always keep dreams in my heart. Dreams of a day to truly rest, to see a warm roof, to laugh with loved ones. Days pass. I don't allow myself to collapse before fatigue because I know I'm not alone. Together with multicultural cowboy friends, we form a community, overcoming difficulties that seem impossible. The life of a Western cowboy in 1870 is not glamorous or romantic as many think. It is a life with few belongings, low wages, dust, and exhaustion creeping everywhere. But it is this life, through perseverance and team spirit, that has shaped the image of strong, yet indomitable people, proud Western cowboys. When night falls, the cowboy camp sinks into dense darkness. But that does not mean we are allowed to sleep peacefully. Tonight, the watch is mine. The task of protecting the cattle from the dangers of the Wild West. A task that sounds simple, but in reality is a tense battle every minute, every second. The necessity of the night watch, May. The cattle are our greatest asset. Losing even one is already a heavy loss on this long journey full of dangers. Wolves, jaguars, and other wild beasts always lurk, waiting for the chance to attack the cattle or even the guards themselves. Therefore, every night, a few people in the group take turns on watch, walking around the camp with old rifles in hand, eyes wide open, ears listening for any strange sounds echoing in the darkness. Tension and lack of sleep. Last night, I only managed to nap for a few hours. Every insect's chirp, every gust of wind blowing through dry branches could be a sign of danger. Occasionally, the distant howl of wolves made my heart beat faster. I knew they weren't howling just for fun, but were gathering nearby, possibly approaching soon. Staying alert through a long night is not easy, especially when the body is already tired after a whole day struggling on horseback. The encounter with wolves. Around midnight, while I was walking around the camp, I suddenly heard strange noises at the edge of the field. The campfire's light cast shadows moving quickly. I quietly drew my rifle, aiming toward that direction. It was a pack of wolves, at least 5, silently approaching to hunt. My heart seemed to stop for a moment, all senses sharpened to the max. This was a moment where a single lapse could cost a life or lose the entire herd. I tried not to let any noise scare the wolves, staying calm to observe their movement, protecting the cattle. The wolves lurked in the darkness, waiting for an opportunity. I walked around, occasionally making soft calls or rattling nearby objects to create threatening sounds. Fortunately, they finally left, not daring to risk an attack. However, the pressure weighed heavily on my shoulders, not just because of the task of protection, but also because of the loneliness and cold of a long, sleepless night. The rare moments of peace, after the wolves withdrew, I continued patrolling, each step feeling heavier from exhaustion. Looking up at the star-filled sky, I felt a rare silence, a peaceful moment amid the wild night sea. I told myself, no matter how difficult it is, my duty is to protect these fragile lives so that tomorrow the long journey can continue. Team spirit during the night watch. On other nights, my teammates and I often took turns sharing small stories to keep up our spirits. The presence of a companion, even for a few hours, was a precious mental medicine, helping to fight loneliness and stress. The times we stood guard together by the small fire, listening to the wind howl and strange noises, we understood that the bond was the only thing helping us overcome this harsh challenge. The night watch, long hours of alertness, facing danger and loneliness in the Wild West. It was a testament to the mental strength and resilience of cowboys. those willing to sacrifice their safety and sleep to protect the cattle, the most valuable asset. And when dawn came, when the bright golden light chased away the darkness, we continued together on the long, challenging road of cowboy life in the American West. A new day began, but unlike the peaceful moments under the starry night sky, daytime in the American West in 1870 was a continuous challenge for cowboys. The blazing hot sun shone fiercely, burning the dry ground, making the grass and dust glow as if the entire land was on fire. As soon as I opened my eyes, sweat drenched my shirt. The heat came not only from the sunlight, but also from the turmoil of life. A life constantly moving, not allowing anyone to stop or rest. Dust covered everywhere. The air was thick with dust flying wildly in the wind. Dust seeped into eyes, nose, mouth, covering everything like an invisible veil, making everything around hazy. Whenever a horse ran by, a large dust column rose like a giant smoke pillar, sweeping away all traces. This forced me to always cover my face with a cloth, pull my hat down tightly, trying to protect myself from these tiny but harmful dust particles. No time for proper meals. The pace of life was so stressful that it didn't allow us time for proper meals. Main meals were often cut short, replaced instead by moments of quickly chewing a few pieces of hard-dried beef, food that could be kept for a long time, required no cooking, and could be carried along. I remember one day when we had just stopped for a temporary rest by the roadside, a hot cup of coffee was brought to my lips, and I only had time to hastily chew the dried beef before continuing to ride along with the herd. Eating was makeshift, quick, but not enough to recharge for a long day struggling under the scorching sun. A stressful and repetitive rhythm. Day after day, the work repeated. Waking early, riding horses, herding cattle, battling the sun, wind, and dust, eating roughly, then standing guard at night. No days off, no real moments of relaxation. Stress built up in every breath, in every step on the barren ground, in every tired look from my comrades. Perseverance and willpower. No matter how hard life was, my companions and I still had to try to maintain alertness and strength. We did not allow ourselves to fall. I always told myself that even if I had to go through long days full of heat, dust, and exhaustion, I would overcome. Because ahead were still dreams, goals, and freedom that only the Western frontier could offer. Precious moments. In rare moments when the sun softened or when we stopped by a small stream, I found ways to enjoy brief moments of peace. Feeling the cool water on my hands, breathing fresh air, feeling my heart lighten somewhat before the many challenges waiting ahead. The life of a Western cowboy in 1870 was a harsh series of days with heat, dust, makeshift meals, and a constantly stressful pace. However, it was precisely perseverance and strong will that helped us stand firm, protect valuable assets, and continue the journey through this wild and challenging land. After long days struggling with burning sun and swirling dust, today we began entering a tougher stage, when the herd approached the large river running across the wild western land. The water, though a source of life, was also an unpredictable challenge for the cowboys and their cattle. Difficulties in controlling the herd. The cattle were not easy animals to control. Each had its own personality, and when seeing water, they could panic or hesitate, unwilling to step across. I and my teammates had to constantly shout and gently wave our whips to guide each cow. It was an intense race between humans and animals, while the terrain kept changing. Whenever any cow suddenly turned around or ran off, we had to quickly respond to avoid the herd being split, because a separated herd would easily become prey for wild beasts. Changing terrain and dangers. The path we traveled suddenly became slipperier, with soft clay under the horses' hooves and muddy puddles near the river. Many deep water sections forced both horses and cows to carefully test each step, prone to slipping or being swept away by the strong current. I clearly felt the difficulty in every step, every bellow from the cows as they tried to keep their balance in the cold water. Close coordination among teammates, earthmates. At times like these, the coordination among cowboys became more important than ever. We had to divide to watch different directions, support each other in calling the herd, leading, and keeping each cow safe. Every voice, every look had to be quick and precise. A slight mistake could cause the herd to scatter or get injured. The dangerous river crossing borrowed a thing. When reaching the deepest part of the river, my teammates and I had to lead, using strength and experience to keep the herd from drifting off course. The cold, strong current seemed to want to wash everything away, but we could not back down. The sound of horses' hooves and the heavy breathing of the herd blended in the cold, wet, and gloomy space. That was the decisive moment, when persistence and coordination were the keys to overcoming danger. Success and relief. When every cow had safely crossed the river, the whole group sighed in relief. The hardship and fatigue temporarily retreated, giving way to a small joy after overcoming the challenge. I looked around and saw the determined eyes of my teammates and deep empathy. We knew that difficulties had not ended here, but with solidarity and persistence, no challenge could defeat us. The life of cowboys in the American West in 1870 was not only about surviving harsh nature, but also about coordination and strong team spirit to overcome dangerous challenges such as managing the herd, changing terrain, and crossing deep rivers. Each passing day was a lesson in patience, responsibility, and collective strength, helping us keep moving forward on the long path to conquer the wilderness. After crossing the raging river with my comrades, I returned to care for my indispensable four-legged friends, the horses that had steadfastly accompanied us throughout the long journey. I gently stroked their soaking wet coats, using a rough cloth to dry the puddles of water on their skin. Slippery steps in the muddy ground caused small spots of blood to appear on their legs. I checked each hoof carefully, making sure there were no serious wounds that could prevent us from continuing our trip. Horses, not only a means of transportation, but also close companions, indispensable comrades in this vast and harsh land. The necessity of caring for horses. Taking care of horses after every long stretch is always a meticulous and important task. Even a small wound left untreated could cause the horse pain, weakness, or even inability to continue accompanying us. I recall times when comrades had to stop for several days for the horses to recover, which affected the entire cattle driving plan. Caring for horses is not merely a duty, but also an expression of gratitude and the bond between human and horse, a relationship both practical and deeply emotional. Night under the starry sky. After finishing all tasks, we began setting up camp for the night. There were no sturdy huts, no luxurious comforts, only rough tarps for temporary shelter. I lay down on the ground, looking up at the vast night sky where stars twinkled like thousands of tiny lights illuminating the wilderness. The sky was our only roof, an open roof that not everyone could endure. Harsh conditions and loneliness. The cold, dark night seeped deep into my bones, my breath rising in faint clouds. No warm blankets, no soft bed, only hard earth and a feeling of solitude amidst the vast nature. I thought of my family, loved ones far away, and the freedom I was living, a freedom tied with hardship, danger, and deprivation. Cowboy life, freedom, but little safety. The life of a cowboy in the American West is true freedom. Freedom from the constraints of society, freedom to seek one's own life. But that freedom comes with extreme insecurity. We always live in fear of wild beasts attacking, highway robbers, or even sudden illnesses without adequate medicine to treat them. The reward for our efforts, besides a meager wage of about $35 a month, is almost nothing else. No fame, no bright recognition, only long days clinging to barren land and nights sleeping under star-filled skies. Reflections on life. Lying in the dark, I ask myself, are these hardships and struggles worth it? Is a life full of dust, fatigue, and deprivation but exchanged for freedom and closeness to nature something I want to keep? I realize that although there is little material reward, this life teaches me lessons about perseverance, teamwork, and the value of freedom that nothing can buy. Tonight, under the starry sky and rare peace, I understand that the life of a cowboy in the West in 1870 is a blend of extreme hardship and profound spiritual value. Caring for horses, battling nature alongside comrades, sleeping on hard ground, and facing scarcity are inseparable parts of our journey to seek freedom and meaning in life. And though the road ahead is still long, I will continue walking because in every step lies faith and unwavering resilience. After long days struggling with dust, scorching sun, and cold rivers, we finally approach Abilene, one of the busiest and most famous towns along the cattle-driving trail of the American West. The feeling of stepping into Abilene is hard to describe. It feels like leaving a wild, harsh world to enter a crowded place full of sounds, smells, and life so different. The suffocating crowd of the town and boroughs. The streets of Abilene are crowded with people passing by, the sound of horse hooves and rattling wagons mixing with voices, laughter, and music coming from saloons. The smell of tobacco smoke, sweat, and grilled meat blended into a pungent mixture that overwhelmed me. After many days living in the quiet wilderness, this space made my head spin. A chance to rest and recharge. Abilene is where we can rest, bathe, and change clothes, luxuries that seem distant after days covered in mud and dust. A night sleeping on a soft bed, a meal full of fresh meat and warm bread were what my comrades and I longed for. Here, I also received my wages after months of hard work. The amount was not large, but it was a precious reward for relentless effort. Socializing and relationships. Besides resting, Abilene was also where we met others, cowboys from different lands, ranch owners, merchants, even the town's women. Stories and laughter echoed in the saloons, creating a valuable bond among people who had to live far from family, in loneliness and harsh conditions. Temptations and easy spending. However, the bustle and richness of the town also brought unavoidable temptations. Money, earned through hard labor, easily vanished through nights of drinking, gambling, or entertainment. I saw many comrades, after a night in Abilene, their pockets quickly emptied, their hearts filled with anxiety over an uncertain future. Lesson in balance, I learned that although the town offered precious rest, one must know how to balance so as not to be swept into the whirlpool of temptation. Wages were not the final goal, but a tool to continue the journey, maintaining spirit and health for the harsh days ahead. Abilene, a land of opportunity and challenge, of vibrancy and temptation. It was where cowboys like me temporarily set aside hardships to catch a breath, recharge energy, and also learn to face ourselves, holding firm to the chosen path amid many external pulls. After weeks struggling with dust, scorching sun, and nonstop travel, we finally set foot in a place called Safe, the town of Abilene. The first feeling upon entering was overwhelming, but it was also the opening of a new door, a moment of calm in the stormy sea of life. Washing up, a precious moment of cleansing. What I longed for most at that moment was to take a bath. My skin was darkened by clinging dust, sweat, and sun, making my body feel coated in a layer of wax. We sought out the simple public baths in town, where clear, cold water flowed through our fingers, washing away all the fatigue accumulated during the long journey. Each drop of cold water falling on my skin felt like a rebirth. The scent of soap and clean water refreshed my spirit more than ever before. Changing into clean clothes, no more dusty, torn clothes smelling of sweat, I put on new clothes, or at least freshly washed ones. The light, cool feeling of fresh fabric against my skin surprised me. It was a luxury that weeks on the plains could never provide. Looking at myself in the small mirror in the bathhouse, I saw someone different, a person who could step into life with confidence and new hope. A better meal, savoring the taste of life. That meal was truly different. No longer dried beef or hard bread hastily eaten by the roadside. Instead, it was a hot meal with fresh meat, green vegetables, and soft bread accompanied by wine or beer, a small but meaningful indulgence. I sat with my comrades, savoring every bite, the warmth of laughter and conversation filling the small room. Rare moments of comfort. Amid the harsh days, moments like these were priceless gifts. We knew that tomorrow or next week, life would return to dust, heat, and new challenges. But at least in this moment, all pain and exhaustion seemed to vanish, replaced by peace and hope. Reflection and moving forward, I looked around, seeing the eyes of my comrades full of gratitude and determination. The cowboy life was like that. Though lacking and hard, there were always moments to recharge strength and keep going. I promised myself to cherish these precious moments, so I would never lose willpower and faith in the future. The life of a cowboy in the American West in 1870 was not just tiring and difficult days, but also rare, meaningful moments. Bathing clean, eating better, and changing into new clothes were not only care for the body, but nourishment for the soul, allowing us men to continue the long, challenging journey ahead. After long, tiring days, I found a quiet corner in the rented room in Abilene town. Such quiet moments were precious to cowboys like me, those who constantly struggled with dust, heat, and unending challenges. I took out a carefully folded letter from my pocket, a letter sent from home, hundreds of miles away. Reading the familiar lines made my heart ache, mixing longing with hope. Reading letters from home, connecting to roots, each letter is a priceless gift, bringing the warmth of family and loved ones. I read every line, every word, feeling the affection and care through each stroke. Stories about family, harvests, and simple life made me clearly see the stark difference between two worlds, the Wild West and the beloved home. Sometimes my eyes blurred with tears from deep loneliness mixed with the happiness of remembering home. Gathering at the saloon, where friendship is nurtured. After reading the letters, I decided to go down to the bustling town saloon. The saloon was a gathering place for many cowboys, merchants, hunters, and other travelers. Music played, laughter echoed, the clinking of glasses created a warm and close atmosphere, a stark contrast to the cold nights out at the camp. Life stories, the bond that connects souls. In the saloon, my comrades and I sat around an old wooden table, sharing life stories and experiences from afar. We talked about the challenges on the trail, loyal horses, and brief sleeps by the campfire. Though life was tough, these moments helped us feel connection and sharing, things that eased the constant loneliness. Loneliness mixed with companionship. The cowboy life was a mixture of deep loneliness and strong friendships. We, men far from home, often had to face sadness and weak moments alone. But alongside that, friendship and comradeship were great sources of strength, helping us keep moving on the challenging road. Moments to remember, cherishing the present. Looking around the saloon, I saw the eyes of friends, felt trust and sharing. I told myself, no matter how life turns out, moments like these would be the most precious baggage, the motivation to overcome all hardships. Private moments like reading letters from home or gathering with a drink in a quiet saloon became an indispensable part of life for cowboys in the West in 1870. They were not only soul relief, but also a confirmation of the value of friendship and kinship among people in the wild, challenging land. After precious rest days in Abilene, my comrades and I prepared to return to the trail, where the real life of a cowboy began again with all its trials, hardships, and loneliness. A feeling of excitement mixed with fear welled inside. We left behind the hustle and bustle of the town to return to the vast and cruel wilderness. Choosing a campsite, the survival challenge. On the road, choosing a suitable campsite becomes an important task. We search for places with clean water sources, dry enough ground to pitch tents, and safety from wild animals. Every stopover must be carefully considered to ensure safety and convenience for the next day. It's not just a resting place, but also where body and spirit recover before the long days ahead. The cycle of hardship and solitude. Life on the trail is a repeated cycle of hardship, waking up with aching pain, driving cattle through barren lands, facing harsh weather and hidden dangers. Loneliness is always a silent companion, creeping into every thought, especially when night falls and only the wind and horses' hooves remain. We have to learn resilience, finding strength within ourselves to not collapse. Unceasing work. Cowboy life has no concept of vacation or holidays. Every day is a non-stop string of tasks. Herding cattle, riding horses, night watch, repairing equipment, preparing food, caring for horses. Time for oneself almost does not exist. All serve a greater goal, keeping the herd safe and completing the journey. Demanding skills and courage. Life in the wild requires us to master many skills. Skilled horsemanship, terrain reading, handling emergencies, self-care, and caring for teammates when injured. Above all, courage is indispensable. Courage to face nature, hidden fears, loneliness, and relentless challenges. Growth through hardship. I realize that each day on the trail is a valuable lesson. I grow not only physically, but also mentally. I learn acceptance, perseverance, and how to trust myself and my comrades. This life, though harsh, gives me strength and freedom that can't be traded for anything. Returning to the trail after days of rest is a return to the harsh reality of cowboy life in the western frontier of 1870. The cycle of hardship, loneliness, and relentless work is a challenge, but also the path that leads us to maturity, an unyielding spirit, and strong camaraderie. Although the journey is long and arduous, I remain determined to move forward, for this is the life I have chosen, with all that belongs to the wild and free West. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the real life of cowboys in the American West. I hope the stories and details have given you a deeper understanding and appreciation of their endurance and spirit. Are you satisfied with the content so far? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, kindly leave a comment and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And before you go, I wish you a peaceful and restful night. Good night.